Welcome to High Oracle's Reiki Spiritual Healing Channel. And I did my videos on Monday about the eclipse and how we want to break that negative mindset off of our men in order to remove that kind of attack. And so I automatically knew that I was going to get some kind of rebuttal. So, and that's fine. And that's fine because we have to be able to communicate what we're feeling and, what we are thinking about these types of situations that harm our people, that is in our communities only. So we have some men that, automatically, came back with the rebuttal that, the first mail that I heard was them blaming someone else. The first mail that I heard on this topic is not about, taking on the responsibility or the leadership, for what they've done, but to make sure that they point the finger at someone else. And I specifically said that it's time out for that type of negative energy, except for if you are a part of the entity, except for if you want to enslave your people, and my videos are not for everybody. They're not for everybody. If you are not the type of person, the type of male, okay, that understands leadership, that can see your mother struggle, can see that, she has no help, that our fathers either walked out and left, or they were, abusive in the relationship, or she had to leave. If you could not get older and process that, and you're blaming someone, you're blaming the mother, you're not the type of young man that saw your mother struggling to give you the things that the necessities in life, the things that you need in order to just get to school, get by, pay the rent. If you're not that type of young man that watched that and, tried to help your mother when you were old enough, then this is not for you. If you are the type of man, young boy that, sat back and, waited on your mother in order to provide and go through the struggles and thought that that is the way that a woman was going to, be with you in your life. These videos are not for you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the chosen one men who said in their mind and in their heart that I see my mother, struggling. Those men who try to defend their mothers or their sisters from abuse, from the male narcissist males in society and in their family, even as a child. So again, my videos isn't for certain males. If you feel like that, you want to be like the men of old, the 1960s and the 70s men that, you don't have any skills to compete with, and you would readily put your women in your life. You would readily tell them or try to prostitute them. So these videos are not for you because you're made for your entity. If you are those men who are, who have been willing to help your family out, to help your sisters out, if you have, stood up for your sisters, if you have gone to your sister's house in order to defend her from a male, and you had to check men in their lives for them, then these are for the chosen one men. Everyone, and like I say, everyone is not a chosen one. So this is what I mean. So if you are talking about you're not coming into a relationship, or you're not coming into a marriage, or you're not coming back to Black women, then I said what I said because you're underdeveloped as it is. And I wasn't talking to you because you're not chosen one. You know what I'm saying? You're made for the entity. You're one of those that, have to stand on the block because you have no skills. Okay. You don't want to learn from anyone. No one can develop your skills because you have sold your soul to the entity. And I just wanted to make that clear for you. Okay. So these videos are not for all men and women. I'm talking to the chosen one, men and women who could see in their childhood that something is wrong here in our household. Our mother is working herself to the bone. And nobody has to talk down to, me about my father in order for me to see that, he wants to be exalted in spaces that, he hasn't, put in the work. Bringing the money home for those of us who had fathers, and this is what we're talking about. Those of us who had fathers, and I want to put this very delicately, that, didn't think that, they needed to interact with their families. That all they needed to do was bring home what money they could provide. And they were very competitive and very angry when they could not provide for everyone, and their female had to step in order to put something together with them to make this work for the family. So those types of men, that we have to understand that we're, as children, outsiders looking in. We're not talking down about anyone. We're talking about what happened. Why these people could not compete in society. Who are the culprits? Why did the woman have to go and get food stamps, welfare? And if you cannot see what I'm trying to, let you know, then, obviously you're not an empathetic person. You're a narcissist. And so when you have those types of, demonic attachments, then you will try to misunderstand people. So there's little here. I've left little room for you to be able to understand that I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the chosen one men. And I've always been talking to the chosen one men, the ones who, say that they grew up struggling. Excuse me, I'm sorry, my other phone. They grew up struggling and they wanted to give something back to their mothers because their mothers, stayed. Their mothers had to get welfare, when the fathers left, out of being, wanting to compete in society. The mothers had to get welfare in order to feed the families when the fathers left. No one can throw a man out of the house if it is his intentions to provide, if it is his intentions to make sure that the children are taken care of and raised. Because in this situation, we are in a very complex situation with the enslavers and the colonizers, where the roles may be reversed, where he may have to stay at home if he cannot find work. Okay, and the female may have to go out and get some money or provide. Okay, but at the end of the day, he was there. Those types of men. Okay, so it's not only about the money, but we're talking about not being able to provide at all and become abusive and violent and derogatory, the way that a lot of our men are today and was back then. So that spirit has taken over, And we have, as women, we've cleansed that type of spirit so that you cannot re-enter unless you're entering in a position where you're ready to, take on the role that you were supposed to be in, that you were supposed to, be in, helping us with these types of issues in the home life, in society, helping the young men become men, and not running away because your ego has been, destroyed by the entity, by the enslaver and the slave master, and they will, readily available try to turn that around and say that it was the black women. Okay, so if you cannot provide for your family, if you having 4 and 5 kids and you cannot provide for a house of 6, a lot of you can't provide for yourself right now. Okay, so we're not talking about those Kevin Samuel dudes who think that they're high value men on $40,000 a year, on $28,000 a year, and that's all that they have to take care of themselves. We're talking about providing for yourselves and working 2 jobs, providing for your woman and your children, working 2 jobs, and still she has to work in order to make ends meet, especially in this day and time. So my videos are not for everybody. My videos are for the chosen one men that have the empathy, who know how to, interact with the women, the chosen one women, and any woman in society, whether they are in the home or whether they are in business dealings. They know how to react and relate to these types of things that I'm saying. There are only certain men that can relate to this. Those who wanted to be seen up men, those who wanted to, equal up to what the entity had given them in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, standing on the block, hustling, making your women into prostitutions, in a prostitute. I'm not talking to you if you're a pimp. I'm not talking to you if you're lazy. I'm not talking to you if you're easily, manipulated and broken by the entity. Those men who were stealing from their homes, from their mothers, from their families, and making them go through hard times because they wanted to equal up to the entity. And I'm talking about whether you were a son that was doing that, or whether you were the man in her life that was supposed to be the leadership, the protection, the one that we could go to, with whatever is going on, and we wouldn't have to be worried about, it would be taken care of. So these are the chosen one men, that got out and, worked 2 and 3 jobs in order to make sure that their family, their woman, was provided for, their sons were taken care of, that they could, come up with different kinds of ways of making money just to provide. And God did provide at that time. So, there is no excuse for these types of men to come and have any rebuttal and say that they're not getting married or anything, because, nobody wants to marry you. Nobody wants to marry you when you have that attitude of abusiveness, that you want to be served like a king, but you have no skills. You cannot be taught. I'm talking to the men that are empathetic. I'm talking to the men who are kind, and they are stern, and they stand on business. I'm talking about the chosen ones. So again, my videos are not for everyone, male or female. So I hope that you received this message. Please like, share, and subscribe to me. You can reach out to me in the description below. Please book your one-on-one life coaching sessions or your video chat sessions. Book your consultations if you're having a problem with the disease of the heart or anger issues. We can definitely get you an acclimated gift sent out to you. So please make sure that you are donating to my channel. And again, like, share, and subscribe. Assalamu alaikum.